Hi, I'm Catherine Nutting. I'm deputy at Hoyle Primary School, Charlestown, Shipley. We're on our journey towards becoming a school of sanctuary. I'm hoping to have our application in by the November deadline. So I've met with Kate. I will a whistle-stop tour through what we're doing. Kate asked me to speak. I'm DSL. I'm Prevent Lead. I lead on personal development, SMSC, equality and diversity, protected characteristics, British values, all of those sort of things in school. My background is in Birmingham and in Bradford and in Keighley. So I've taught in a number of different schools. I've been at Hoyle 3 years. Hoyle is not your typical Baildon school. So our address is actually Charlestown, Shipley. We have a very, very diverse demographic of children. So I've taught in Central Bradford, I've taught in Keighley. Hoyle Court is very different. So we have some very vulnerable families. And we also have Belgian families, professional parents, a mixture with languages spoken. However, we're typically not a school that has received refugees or asylum seekers. We do have children who have English as an additional language. However, April 22, that changed. So I was in my first year as deputy. I welcomed a lady to my house during the Easter holidays on the Homes for Ukraine scheme. And the same week as I welcomed her, I had an email from one of our parents saying, we're welcoming a mum and a daughter on the Homes for Ukraine scheme. Can you help us? She needs a place in year 6. The head teacher was away on holiday, so I went into school and met with them, showed them around school. I call her my Ukrainian lady. She had quite good English, so she came in and helped with some translation. Mum didn't have any English at that point at all. I found then that we really weren't set up in school. We were welcoming. I think we pride ourselves on being a welcoming school, and we do have some very vulnerable families who we do a lot of work with early help. We have, a lot of children with social care involvement. But this was new, and the teachers, a lot of our teachers didn't have experience of new to English children. So I drew on the things that I'd already used in previous schools. I had a very old program called Racing to English, but it was all that I had at the time to use. The Homes for Ukraine guidance was quite helpful. Horton Housing were really helpful in Bradford. And I quickly got myself signed up on a Teach Meet for refugee children. Quite quickly after that, in May, we welcomed a little girl into year 5. And so we really had to start thinking about what we were doing. So this led me into thinking a little bit wider than just catering for these 2 children. What was it that we were doing in school? As I say, I'm also the Prevent lead. And a lot of what Rachel said, I'd already done quite a lot of those things in school. And I started to think in my head, actually, all this really joins together. And this then took me down the route towards School of Sanctuary. I think it just came up on a link somewhere, and I started to investigate. So we celebrated Refugee Week that year as a way of making those 2 girls feel really welcome. However, I still don't think we understood, I don't think the staff understood the full effects of the trauma of coming from a war zone. The girls started to learn English, were doing really well. We also, so having started down the route of the school sanctuary, we're also the school, we usually receive the children from the traveller side to Esholt. Now, they're not refugees, they're not asylum seekers, but actually there's such a lot that crosses over with the traveller families and the things that they need, and that welcome into school, and particularly making the parents feel comfortable with coming into the education system. So it really applied itself to that as well, because I been starting to explore a little bit more about how we could cater for those children. So we celebrated Refugee Week. We had a whole school art project. We bought some of the books. And then last September, we started on the route of looking at the award. At that point, we had another Ukrainian girl come into year 4. Now, this is where it was really interesting because she'd been a year in England already, but with a different sponsor family in another area of the country. Then mum had got a job in Bradford, so they moved to Bradford. Now, she arrived with near perfect English. You wouldn't have known speaking to her, but she'd only had a year in the country and she'd come with very little English, but very different to the other 2 girls. Arrived, seemed to assimilate into the classroom, made friends, got on with everything, very bright little girl. And I think we didn't really consider her. She was just delightful until one day when we had an assembly, and I'd invited a friend of mine to come and speak, and she talked very, very gently about coming from Odessa, what it was like, and had to leave the assembly. Somebody took her out. So at the end of the assembly, I went to find her, and she poured her heart out in Ukrainian. And afterwards, it made me realize what trauma was there for that little girl and how she was masking it in school. One of the key things she said was, I just can't wait to speak Ukrainian to my mum when I get home. And yet her English, as I say, was near perfect with a Yorkshire accent. So it made me think further at that point. We've done a lot of work in our school about trauma, ACEs, attachment, but we hadn't related it to this child. So that made me think about it more. So this wider piece of work of, how can we start to address this? So that's taken us down the School of Sanctuary route. But we also, I thought what Furaha said about resilience and success, and this little girl didn't want to be seen as a victim. She said, people don't understand what it's like. They don't know what it's like because they weren't there. And she didn't have that person who knew what it was like. But she also wanted to be seen in school as this successful, she is a successful child. So there was this sort of conflict for her. I want people to know what it was like, and I'm a refugee, but actually I don't want them to know I'm a refugee because I want to be like everyone else. So that was really interesting. So then we've got a lovely link. The first girl who came to us, her mum came here with no English. She started work at one of the hotels as a cleaner and housekeeper. She now runs her own business in Shipley and is making an absolute success of it. So she came and spoke to the children, and that did all that. You can come as a refugee. They left their home literally on the first day of the war and went to Poland for a while because she thought, I've got to get my daughter away. She came here with, she drove her car over with what she could pack in her car, and they arrived. And 2.5 years later, she's a successful businesswoman and she's training other people. And that's what I wanted to celebrate as well, that refugees are not always victims. I'm exploring a link with Bradford College. They're actually coming to see me on Wednesday. And part of that, I want to do that linking because I want our children at Hoyle Court to see that, you can be resilient, you can overcome these challenges. Not just for us at Hoyle Court, we don't have the huge numbers that the Bradford schools have, but I think in a way that's even more important, that our children understand they're growing up in Bradford. They're going to go on to secondary school where there will be a wider diversity of children. And, we need to educate them for that. One of the things we've done is adopt the No Outsiders program. If you don't know about the No Outsiders program, I just can't speak too highly of it. Andrew Moffat has designed an amazing program, absolutely supports everything to do with Prevent, School of Sanctuary, educating children for the world of Britain today and in the future. So that is really helping us with our work. there's so much more that I had written down to talk about. The School of Sanctuary work has just opened up a whole new world for us at Hoyle that I think is so important. It's making it real for us, and the children talk all the time really positively. I've just got some quotes ready to go up on the wall tomorrow on a display, where they're talking about being welcoming, that nobody should be left out, that everybody's equal, but we can be different. We did, the other interesting thing was, we did an audit of languages spoken in school, and to see our school, you would probably think we were fairly much English speaking school. We've actually got 15% of children who are identified as EAL, but we've actually got 12 home languages spoken, including English, but languages that are actually spoken at home and the children are fluent in. And that's quite a lot. I didn't think we would have that many. And we've probably got others where parents haven't identified. So again, that's another thing that it's led us into, is knowing our families better. So that's really really exciting. We've got a whole program of assemblies, enrichment. We're looking at our curriculum. We've done all sorts of things. Refugee Week this Thursday. We've got Good to Be Me Day, which is all about being strong, being brave, being me. We're using one of the suggested stories from the School of Sanctuary Stories for that. And again, we're going to do a big piece of artwork. Black History Month, European Day of Languages, lots of other things there. So we're really loving our School of Sanctuary journey, and making lots of links through it.
Thank you. I feel like you could do a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4. When you first told me those stories, when I came to meet you, honestly, I was nearly in tears, actually, and they have stuck with me, the stories that you have told, and I think just show how you don't have to be a super, even though you are very multicultural, but you don't have to have many, tons of people seeking sanctuary in your school to work towards the award. It's relevant for everybody. But what you've learned through your Ukrainian new arrivals has been incredible. And thank you so much for sharing those stories.
Maybe just one thing. What I said to the staff this morning, I actually did prevent training for staff this morning. And one of the things I said to them was, under that umbrella, but it fits, was don't underestimate the power of education, of what we can do and what we can change. And I said, sadly, the world as it is at the moment, who knows where the next group of refugees or asylum seekers will come from. The Ukrainian children have tended to come into places where the Syrian and Afghan refugees tended to go into central Bradford. The Ukrainian refugees, because it was a different scheme, have gone to different places. And who knows, tomorrow Hoyle Court could receive an asylum seeker, refugee from somewhere else. And this is where I said, we need to be ready all the time.